Even if people can't tell it's AI, if they're told later it's AI, the trust drop is significant, like 30%, something like that. Trust is more important in certain purchases and certain brand relationships than others. And you get whiteboard markers. It's a low risk purchase and it's functional and that kind of thing. But clothing, those are brands you expect to behave in a certain way. And so when they violate your trust, then it's a much bigger deal, right?
If you do content that is raw, it almost like that imperfection signals authenticity in a way. There is a little bit of a change in that everything doesn't have to be polished.
This is Between Two Pixels, the podcast for anyone who wants to reach and connect with their audience through content and marketing.
Welcome to the Between Two Pixels podcast, a podcast for anyone who wants to reach and connect with their audience through content and marketing. My name's Josh, and I'm here with my business partner, Bryan.
Hi, Josh.
Frederick Owen, right? Is it French?
No, it's funny because my kids made fun of me this weekend. My parents told me they gave me Frederick as the middle name so I could go by Bryan, Fred, or Rick. So a highly functional decision. So for a short time in seventh grade, I decided I was going to go by Rick.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like your parents would be great in working in the operations team.
Yeah. Yeah. They want options.
I call you Bryan Options Owen because you love to have three options for everything.
Yeah, that'll come up today. We've got some threesomes.
I guess you. I don't think we have that.
That's not what I meant.
That is not. I have notes right here. It doesn't say that.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Trifectas.
Yeah. Cool. Well, okay. So today we're talking about AI and authenticity. Okay. So obviously AI is always a hot topic. I feel like at least once a quarter we have to do a podcast on AI because things change so quickly. So in relationship to like authenticity, I mean, I think this is something that we're seeing more as AI use becomes more widespread for different things, whether it's writing or content creation. So it's something we wanted to talk about. So when it comes to authenticity, let's just talk about authenticity for a second, because I feel like this is something that has, I think in storytelling marketing, it's been something since you were able to create more content that was, video driven or story driven. It's been a subject. And then obviously with like podcasting and the rise of that and people wanting to see more authentic nature of things. What is authenticity?
Yeah.
And how has it changed?
Well, I think it's a very subjective term. It's a bit squishy.
Yeah.
And there's actually some pretty good research around how people respond and define it, but it is very much a reactive type thing. I think people tend to. It's not like necessarily a rational response. If someone says this is inauthentic, it's like something they kind of feel. Yeah, like you just kind of know it doesn't feel authentic, right? And you'll see that in some of the backlashes of kind of things that happen to brands that. When they had some issues with being inauthentic or whatever. But originally, it's interesting. It was the word was intended to be related to whether or not a document came from the original source, right? It's like literally
authenticate it.
Yeah, it's an authentic document, meaning was this from the person who is proclaiming to be the author, right? And so that's still true, but not as much. It's kind of evolved a little bit. And more relevant to what we do in terms of like authenticity being, is this something that's consistent with what this person would do or what this brand would do? Yeah. Because like brands a lot of times take the characteristics of people and you can like have relationships with them and trust them and things like that. And so a lot of it now is related to, is this something that I would expect from this brand or is it not? Yeah. And then with AI, I would argue there's a third, which has always been there, but it's more important now, which is like, even if it's from the source, it's from the brand, and even if it's something that you would expect to come from them, is it fake? Is it deceptive? Yep. And so I think that's a big part of the relevance now is does it come across as being something that's proclaimed to be real, but it's not, but it's fake. So
it's interesting listening to you talk and kind of break that down, because it made me think about like, even if something comes from the person or the brand, it's almost like now there's like certain things that almost like signal up this is inauthentic. And so like you could even say like, even like in networking groups or something. The second someone tries to like sell you something outside, hey, that's not what this group is for. Even like normal human interactions, it's like certain behaviors like signal inauthenticity. And there's certain with AI, I feel like there's, even if a brand is doing something that is authentic for them, the use, and I think we're going to talk about some examples of that, but there's like the use of AI in a certain way signals this is inauthentic. Even if it's technically on brand, it might not be authentic. Well, so on that kind of topic, why is authenticity important for brands? And is it important in every facet, or like how is it important?
Well, it seems to be the linchpin is trust. Because if it's not authentic, that means it's not relevant to the brand, and you can't necessarily trust. It's almost like you lose the trust, and it's like if they're being untruthful, deceptive, then in this thing, then how am I going to trust them in some other thing? And I think it matters. If you think about the different brands, this is just kind of my opinion, but like trust is more important in certain purchases and certain brand relationships than others.
Right.
So if it's like a commodity, like if you're going to, I don't know, I need to get whiteboard markers. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much. I don't really know much about the brands, and I'm not going to pay attention. And if it's been something that I would see as inauthentic, I'm like, well, it's fine. It's a low risk purchase and it's functional and that kind of thing. But if it's a lifestyle brand or something that you connect with, that really kind of ties to who you are, right? So it could be like clothing, like a Patagonia or something like that. Like those are brands you expect to behave in a certain way. And so when they violate your trust, then it's a much bigger deal, right? So I think a lot of it depends on that. But the higher the more important trust is in the purchase, in the brand relationship, the more loyalty you're going to have, and the more trust is a factor. And I think that's when you'll see that brands get the biggest backlash from being inauthentic is when there's the kind of purchases that those brands that they kind of assume as part of their lifestyle. Right? Whether even Bud Light, right? That whole thing, or clothing, or and I know you had some examples.
I think
that you kind of found where it kind of went backwards.
100%. Like I think one of the ones that came to mind when we started talking about this was the Coca-Cola Christmas commercial that they did. I think it was in 2024. I remember it was the college football playoffs. I think it was either the playoff. I think it was the playoffs. It wasn't the championship game, because I know it was before Christmas or before the New Year. It might even been on New Year's Eve. And I remember seeing it was like the polar bear ad, but it was like all the animals, and like I remember watching that, and I was like, I had like friends over, and we're all sitting there watching the game, and I'm like literally yelling at the projector screen, like, what is this? This is horrible. What is this ad? Like they just literally, Coca-Cola just redid their most, like kind of their most like, I don't know, iconic. Emotional. And iconic, like the polar bears. And then they're making this expanded polar bear ad with this like obviously AI, like Coca-Cola truck and all these animals sitting around. And I'm like, okay, it's great. You expanded it. Wonderful. It looks horrible. You just completely destroyed. And they all didn't even notice. They're all just like, what are you talking about? Like, what? And I'm like,
nerd
what? Literally yelling at the TV about how they just destroyed the most iconic part of their brand. And then I go and look on and see, okay, I'm not the only person who thought this, other people, the backlash was like, this is trash. Right. So I think that's, that might not be like a trust situation with Coke, but it's definitely like, people feel ownership in the brand too, like certain really big brands, when you're like, no, like it's like kind of like when a music artist doesn't play their smash hit or something at a thing. And it's like, that song belongs as much to the audience as it does to the artist, probably more to the audience. And it's kind of the same way with these like big brands that like we feel like we're a part of. They mean something to us. So,
but how would that have been? What would have made it better if it was illustration that was clearly not real? Would that have been better, do you think?
Well, I think this is kind of what I was saying before about how certain actions and behaviors that are not appropriate, like might signal inauthenticity. Like, like I said, like a sales meeting thing, like you're like, hey, we're just hanging out. You don't need to talk to me about sales. I mean, it can happen even with friends, right? When someone tries to like sell you on something they're doing, and you're like, okay,
like, hey, let's go meet for coffee.
I thought we were friends, and now you have an opportunity for multi-level marketing for me or something. And it's kind of the same thing. I'm like, the technology, in my opinion, wasn't good enough yet when they did that commercial to it signaled inauthenticity. Because it was on brand. It just signaled like, we don't care enough about this brand to like go all to do the right thing, to pay the money to deliver like something that doesn't look like AI. When AI gets better, I'm not sure it would necessarily that like marker and that flag will change to something else.
I think that's interesting because it's almost like the quality, because it wasn't the fact that it was fake animals.
Right. No.
Like that wasn't an issue. I think
or that it was animated.
Like part of Coke's values is quality. And if you go back to their history, it's fascinating because they associated themselves with America. It was like through the war and all that. It's fascinating, but they were like as America as anything else, right? They came up with the current representation of Santa Claus, right? And so I think that's probably part of the violation. And also like they represent quality. And so I think that's probably part of it was it just wasn't good enough. It was like, you kind of stooped to a level where everyone else was playing, and Coke should have been above that.
If you've ever been to the Coke Museum in Atlanta, it's like, and we all have, right? Because the kids just want to go drink all the different like Coke things, right? It's like about like innovation and like, I mean, you see like how it was made and the science, and they won't even let you like see this. It's like all secret about the secret sauce, and you go into the vault and there's like all this stuff. It's almost like the Wright Brothers Museum in Kitty Hawk or something. And then you're like this is your innovation, is you're just going to rip your most iconic, brand feature with AI. Yeah. Like, okay, that's no, like that's bad. That's not, to me, it just looked like, okay, you just look like everybody else. You're not, people care about the brand. It's like, it's nostalgic for a lot of people, you know? So they're just like kind of, in my opinion, bad. Yeah. So that's one example.
Yeah. I read about this one. I don't know how I missed it, but did you hear about the Sports Illustrated scandal? I think it was in 2024.
I don't think I did.
They used AI generated, authors to like write product reviews and stuff. And it was exposed. Their CEO got fired, but they said it was unrelated to that, but it was a big deal and that was probably an egregious and obvious like breach of trust when you start doing that stuff too. But that's part of it with AI is that it's so easy to create and misrepresent. And fortunately, if we get into it, there's some laws that have been in place for a long time that help protect authenticity a little bit. Now they're certainly not going to keep up, but they do protect consumers from certain deceptive practices and stuff like that. And so that obviously was not right. And seems like a really bad judgment, but the pressure is like, hey, we need to produce content at scale, and reviews matter. And so let's just go ahead and do it at scale and come up with some people that aren't real. Yeah. But obviously it created a lot of backlash. And then all of a sudden you're kind of like, well, they're a venerated, like really respected journalism source, And so now all of a sudden it's like, gosh, if they're going to do that, like what can I trust that comes, on the papers or on the screen? So
no, that's true. But, it's tough. That's good. So what are some of the things you think we would tell clients, or things we do for our brands that you can do to protect that? Because obviously AI is changing lots. What you can use it for to even pass that test is changing. But like, what are some of the things that brands can do, do you think, to help protect against inauthenticity?
Yeah, it's hard. Again, because it is very subjective, and you kind of have to be able to make judgment calls because stuff's evolving so quickly. It's not, you can have principles, but going back to what's the core principle of being true to who you are, and that means you have to really know who you are. So a lot of brands don't really know who they are really, really well enough. I mean, because if you're a consumer, to be able to say something that is inconsistent with what Coke would do, you have to know what's consistent with Coke would do. Like, what would Coke normally do and say? Like, you kind of understand what they're for. They're for like happiness and quality,
open
and
happiness.
I
think that's like one of the taglines. Yeah.
And so it's easy to see. So I think that would be the first is, make sure that you know really, really well who you are, what you represent, how you speak, what your character is, what your brand promise is, stuff like that, because then it's going to be easier to evaluate. Otherwise it just becomes, a futile subjective affair. Every time something comes up, you're trying to figure out and arguing about whether or not it's okay or not. Right. Yeah.
And it's tough because how fast AI moves and innovates, it's like the Wild West. It's like for people that want to be on the cutting edge of something, they're like, well, there's this new thing. Should we do that? And you don't really know. It's almost like, I heard someone recently talking about AI as kind of like the way social media was. It's like it evolved so quickly, and like we didn't really know what it was going to do, like to your brain, culturally, to engagement, to like, you know, students or kids or whatever, like the use. And it's like, it's kind of the same way, like for us as marketers and for people that are brand managers, it's like these tools are coming out and you don't really know the impact of it. Kind of like the Coke example. Like they probably thought they were being innovative and they didn't realize that it was, you know, just to be like on the cutting edge. Yeah, we're doing something new. We're just going to do it. And they didn't realize, oh, this is going to damage how people think of us, you know? So, yeah, it's tricky to, but you have to answer those questions. Like you're saying, you're like, it's a moving target. Cause you're like, what will this degrade trust? Like, does this build trust? I guess, you know, is a good way to think about it.
Well, do you have, like do's and don'ts, like never do this, always do this in terms of like content specifically, kind of your area of expertise is? Yeah.
So like, here's another example. I'll just say another example. I got fed an ad, I think last night for something. And I was like, oh, this seems like something I would use, but they were obviously using an avatar and I could tell it was an avatar.
Yeah.
And it's like the voice is good, but it was scripted in a way that sounded like something that, like, I don't know if a human would say that. Maybe this person on camera is just weird or something. And then they started breaking eye contact and doing this stuff, you know, that the AI avatars do. It's like unnatural like pauses and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is an avatar ad. Like, okay, you just tried to like sell me an authentic person talking to camera, like telling you that you're using this product and it was good. And now I completely do not trust you. So that would be an example of something I would say we should not do.
Yeah.
There are times when you can use avatars. I just wouldn't use it like that because that would obviously be.
When do you think it's okay to use avatars?
Like in the past, like we've used it to fix things. I've used it for voiceover, scripted stuff for like internal training, for our teams, like onboarding. But I just don't like I don't show the avatar at times when it looks bad. I put like a tiny circle at the beginning and then we go to voiceover. And that's just more of a practical thing though. That's not going to like necessarily damage our brand. It's just like gives us the flexibility to like, if we change a policy, we can quickly update our HR training videos and stuff.
In that case, that's a little bit different too, because it's a closed audience. And so everybody knows like it's coming from you, it's coming from me. We're just producing in a certain way. We're not trying to be deceptive. Or
and it's really hard to tell, you know, in those environments when you're not thinking about it that way. I think also we've definitely used it to replace like lost footage, like where I've told this example before, but like where you have the voice that's the person's actual voice, but then you're missing like 15 seconds of a clip because a file got corrupted. You take footage, you clone it, and you still have to cut around. You can't just like assume it's going to be good if you don't want to break the authenticity. And is that really inauthentic? It's really the person's voice. It's like, yeah, but it can still be perceived as inauthentic. So another thing that's pretty interesting is I remember when we had our company offsite, I showed examples of AI created content and we were doing like a training essentially on like, here's how we create good AI generative AI. And I remember asking the staff, like, what do you think? I'm going to show them the ad and I'm like, what was AI in this? And the hands were going up over voiceover. And I'm like, no, that's actually a real person's voice. So I think even nowadays, like you have to be careful that your real stuff doesn't signal AI as well. Because the assumption, and I thought it too, I was like, oh, this is kind of we were provided the voiceover. I was like, this kind of sounds like AI, but I just, you had to go with it. So it's just kind of something to consider. Just, you have to kind of step back and look at everything objectively. Don't be afraid to use the tools, but you kind of have to ask, is this signaling AI? Does this look, you have to discriminate a little bit. Whereas I think, if you do content that is raw, it almost like that imperfection signals authenticity in a way. I think there is a little bit of a change in that everything doesn't have to be polished, and that sometimes too much polish signals inauthenticity, even if it's not generated by AI, especially on social media. And like the need to, I don't want to say you need to be imperfect, but there is something about things being imperfect that people enjoy now, you know?
Right. So maybe not, human, being
Yeah.
human.
More human,
Yeah.
you know, that it is what makes us human, you know, being imperfect and all that. But I think often as marketers too, like we want things to be dialed in and perfect, but like, I feel like that's the rise of podcasting as well, where people like that. I'm just going to listen to them talk for a couple hours, and it's okay if they mess something up. We'll sort it out in the comments usually.
So you could say one rule is don't misrepresent a human
Yeah.
with a robot, which I think is valid.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because it's a pretty significant difference, even if people can't tell it's AI.
Yeah.
If they're told later it's AI, the trust drop is significant, like 30%, something like that. So even if someone sees someone doing the same, especially if it's because we're influenced by relationships, right? The closer we are to somebody, if they give us advice or they give us a recommendation, it means more to us because of the relationship we have. Well, that goes completely away with AI. And so I think that's part of it, is thinking about any situation where you're relying on a human influence, like an influencer, right? There's a big difference between having like a real influencer and then having an AI generated version of them say something.
Right.
It means nothing if it's AI generated because they know it's not coming from that person. Right.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. And then I heard the second would be just don't try to be too perfect, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the third would be, there's not necessarily a one size fits all, like to say like you should or shouldn't use avatars, or you should or shouldn't use like AI voiceover, or you shouldn't use like VO3 or ChatGPT, like whatever your tools are to create and generate something. I think there's not necessarily a one size fits all, because there's a lot of podcasts that I watch that are like highly produced, and they use AI generated B-roll to generate concepts you would never see. But it just helps you imagine what the person's talking about. That doesn't feel inauthentic to me. It feels like that's just part of their brand.
Because you're expecting it not to be real.
But there's definitely times when doing that generated. Would be. Yeah. So just, you know, those things you said, but add as well, just you have to kind of know what you have to evaluate every use case and just be like, okay, I thought we could, it's like, you can almost hear it. It's like, well, I thought it was okay for us to use avatars. No, yeah, I understand we're going to use avatars. Yeah, we do use those. But see how that one looks fake now? It's like, oh yeah, it does look fake. So you almost have to be making those brand decisions, like going back to what you said about really knowing your brand and knowing yourself. Yeah. Like you have to go back to that all the time and put it like right in front of you, like when you're putting content out. So.
Yeah. Well, inevitably brands are going to make mistakes. And so I think, especially in the case when it changes so often and there's so much subjectivity, there's going to be mistakes. So recommendations for brands that have either been caught or are in a situation where they've maybe done something that is less authentic and they get across the line a little bit.
Yeah, just like overcorrect. Oh, definitely overcorrecting and going to like whatever the more extreme version of authenticity is good. You know, I think I also love, you know, I'm a runner. It's who isn't, right? It's so cool. But like, I've noticed that like shoe brands, they allow influencers to say whatever they want. You know, they'll send them free shoes, but then they don't, to me, control that narrative. And to me, that almost open source reviews thing where you get in, you know, big running events and things that happen. They invite all the influencers there. They're like, hey, we're releasing all this stuff. They give them all this stuff. They give them free product, and then they can literally say whatever they want. And I feel like that has been, at least for me, as someone who's like always trying to figure out like, what's up with this shoe? Should I spend money on this? I mean, because it's to buy shoes. I mean, it costs a lot of money. It's like, you don't want to get it and be like, oh, they said this was like this and it's not, and I'll just waste it. You know? And so I that's kind of cool to me. Like that open kind of open source, like group kind of evaluation of things without restriction is cool. And so, you know, I don't know how that applies necessarily to other brands and other industries, but anything you can do to like open that up and like create that transparency, whatever that looks like. Maybe it is involving influencers for a lot of brands, especially lifestyle brands. I mean, that's an easy aspect of it. It just starts to kind of break down the wall of like just the marketing material. Yeah. I think that's a great point. And also,
the transparency is important too. And I think also if you do make a mistake, then people respect when you own up to it. I think one of the resistances to marketing is that if you come across as being like perfect for everybody, then you start to get skeptical. You know, consumers are just like, well, I'm not really sure. I've heard this, but you're not really talking about it or addressing it, you know? But the whole idea of recovery, if you do something that crosses a line or offends somebody, even like on a one-on-one basis or at a brand level, to own it, you know, because I think if you think about what would you expect of someone that you trust, well, you'd expect if they make a mistake, they're going to own up to it. Yeah. Right. And they're going to address it and they're going to do something about it. They're not going to try to cover it up. Right. So I think the same thing applies. I think brands need to be okay with that, knowing that as they're exploring or innovating, there's going to be situations that they find themselves in that aren't ideal. And rather than covering it up, just to be open about it, you know, which is kind of like the same principle, but that's kind of what you'd expect. And I think that builds trust. It's almost like, you don't want to manufacture mistakes, but when you do mess up and you recover really well, it's actually increases your brand value. Yeah, it's true. More so than if you never made the mistake in the first place. You definitely have to respond the right way. Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah.
Well, what, you want to talk a little bit about some of the legal things? So is there things that are, I know there are some that have been there and that are there now, but, will that just happen? Will like the legal kind of control? I hope, I mean, there's so many things when it comes to like AI generative content that I would love to see like even more restrictions on, and, you know, things with copy, writing things and trademarking things. And I know some of that already exists, like human generated, obviously has to be, primary in order to get those. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a bit of a patchwork, and I'm certainly not an expert, but it seems to be evolving over time. And there's some existing laws from the FTC that protect deceptive practices that have gone back for hundreds of years. Yeah. Maybe not hundreds, but a long time. Yeah. And there's a lot of examples of companies getting caught for this way before AI. And so I think that's a good one because that's a pretty general one. It just needs to be updated and kind of refreshed in terms of the way AI plays into that. You know, you can't clone people without their consent. So that's important. You also can't protect AI generated content, which is a nice provision because it makes you think like, gosh, if this is core to our brand and something that we're generating that we're going to own, it has to come from human origin or else we can't protect it legally and someone else can kind of use it. So there are some things that are there, you know, but I think that if you're a brand relying on the laws to decide what to do, then you probably need to raise your bar a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it should be a backstop for consumers. And then state laws are different. There's some New York and California laws and some other places where they tend to be more consumer protective rather than company protective. And so I think that's the case. And then in EU, it's even more so. They've got a lot of disclosure rules and stuff like that you have to disclose if it was manipulated at all by AI or something like that. So that's going to be interesting too, where you're going to start seeing more. There's probably going to be some really innovative ways that you're identifying AI content. Yeah. Because if it's showing up on social and display ads and stuff like that, you're going to have a way to kind of tag it. Yeah. So people know, hey, this is AI generated.
I do feel like that probably will be something that happens where like AI generated. Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, you're supposed to check certain boxes, you know, when you upload stuff to YouTube. Yeah. But that doesn't mean anything.
Well, yeah, I know. So, and in most cases, smaller brands they're not going to like get sued for it. It's the law, but a lot of people don't necessarily, they fall into the gray area and they're kind of okay. Yeah. On the other side of it. Yep. So,
well, anything else as we're like kind of closing out?
No, I just think it's exciting because, you know, for what we do and for marketers, you know, we have to figure out ways to differentiate our products or services or the products or services of our clients. And if we know that a lot of most decisions have at least some emotional component and there's a strong relationship component between brands and consumers, as we talked about, then I think it's a great opportunity because it's going to be the human. How do we integrate AI in a way that is more human and connects with people? Because AI inherently doesn't really connect with people. People connect with people, right? So, so that's an interesting opportunity, I think, now for us at this time in the next, 5 to 10 years to kind of figure out what that is. And I think the companies that can figure out how to connect with people through this period, I think there'll probably be some backlash against AI, and there already is, where it's like, nostalgia and authenticity and going against the grain with technology is, where some brands are being successful. I think that'll be more and more relevant, but I think it's exciting opportunity for us to think about it. Connection and influence is a human characteristic. It's not a machine characteristic. And so we just have to make sure that that comes through and through what we do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I liked it. Yeah, and we've talked about it before. It's like thinking about like a tool, just like every other tool we've had for marketing. I mean, there's definitely, I would put it in the category of like templates or something. Like there's times when you can use a template. And there's a time when using a template was like, this doesn't feel obviously you can tell it's a template, and then it doesn't look authentic. It doesn't look like you've helped the brand at all. Yeah. I mean, and I would say too, even like using stock B-roll versus like shooting custom footage, there's definitely brands where it's like, you can't do that. We have to go like actually film our people doing it. Cause then it just feels like vaporware, or like, do you guys even do anything? You're just using stock. But then there's somewhere it doesn't matter. So, looking at the tool, thinking of it as a tool, and then evaluating it in a case by case basis. I mean, because it's only, the use is only going to expand. Yeah, and the tools are only going to continue to evolve. So, I think too, just like as marketers, like thinking of ways that we can develop authentic content, like so for example, like, I feel like with things like this, with like generative AI, say with like audio and video and traditional social channels, you have like Substack over the last like year and a half, has like really grown. And like now everyone who creates content somewhere, they're like, go to my Substack. I mean, doesn't matter what their channel is. If they're creating content, depending on who they are, I guess a lot of people have Substack, and Substack is just written. I mean, it's just like blogging again. Yeah. So it's almost like it's like this written word. People just want to go read it and follow and subscribe and all of that stuff. And then, there's a paywall if you want, to see premium articles. So I think that's interesting too. I mean, I guess people can generate AI driven content over there too, but that's not what people are going to do. They're like, I'm not coming here to read your Substack, to read AI generated content. So it's kind of interesting to see as a marketer, I think, like what other channels pop up to solve the inauthenticity, or that gets saturated with content creation. Yeah. So I think for us, we're just keeping an eye on that, just to see like what other tools are available for brands. So,
and ironically, seeing the LLMs using a lot of those platforms to feed their answers.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy too. I know.
To become more human. So it's almost like a cycle and a race of like,
where's the human snake eating its own tail,
and then how does it kind of eventually end up in ChatGPT?
I mean, thinking like YouTube is like a platform that is kind of powered, I think, by authenticity in so many ways, because it's like the less ads and polished stuff. I mean, you can do something polished but still make it authentic. And to think like, well, now you can just generate, avatar driven stuff for everything with AI. It's almost like, well, is that, what do you need to see on that channel in order to keep it authentic? Certain things, like I was saying, you just can't do it. So I think it'll be interesting for us as content creators and marketers, like what tools come out, how does the industry respond, because people get tired of certain things, certain channels. So,
well, how do I know that you're not AI?
I don't know. You'll never be able to tell. I might just clone me, and I'll be like, that was actually me.
I swear I saw Josh walk by.
A minute ago. Maybe you did.
Oh well.
All right, cool. I will replace you with this.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go golfing.
Make you say whatever I want. Okay. Awesome. Well, I guess that's it for this episode. Do you feel good about it?
I do. Yeah. I mean, everything we said will probably be relevant in 6 months, but we'll do it again.
Yes, that's why we do it every quarter. Awesome. All right. Well, if you like this and you want to hear more content like this, you can check us out on YouTube. You can like and subscribe if you wish, or anywhere that podcasts are streaming. And we will see you next time.